Howdy, 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 my name is Anashi Sasuke, and welcome back to Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. In the last episode, we read about the vessel in the gate, pet rocks, smoky cigars, lucky jeans, and time keeps on slipping. And time keeps on slipping was actually the least uncomfortable one, with the most uncomfortable one definitely being pet rocks. So this episode, we're going to be doing hypnobulbs, desert in a can, I hope that's desert and not dessert, one groovy room, personal music player, and ankle biters. And I gotta say, I'm not 100% sure how I've ended up at 600, in Friday's episode I'm going to be ending with 630, and Monday's episode started with 601, so I'm not really sure how this has happened. No, wait, no it didn't. I think I started at Monday with the Living Storm Cloud. No, never mind. Okay, that makes it. It checks out, I'm just dumb. So, the hypnobulbs. Oh! I thought they were going to be light bulbs, but they look like flowers. SCP-621 is Euclid, and all instances of it are to be kept in the Site-16 greenhouse and watered regularly. Seeds and pollens from 621 are not to be released into the wild. No instances of 621 are to be released for commercial trade, given as gifts, used as props, used as bribes, or stored in personnel offices. Personnel are advised not to look at 621 for extended periods of time. Why would these make good bribes? Personnel are advised not to look at 621 through sunglasses, Addendum 3. Why is Addendum 3 all the way up here? What happened to Addendum 1 and 2? Don't look at it with sunglasses, which has recently been shown to increase the mental effects. Only unfiltered lab goggles may be worn around 621. It should be of additional note that unfiltered lab goggles, lab glass, or other transparent obstructions will not shield its effects. Okay. Any instances of 621 found in the wild are to be exterminated immediately. Any instances found in public are to be confiscated, and whoever in possession at the time taken in for questioning. Civilians actively watering 621 in the wild are to be detained, and the instances of 621 are to be confiscated. Be warned that some may use physical force in order to protect it. Cross-pollination of 621 species will require clearance from command-level personnel. No cross-pollinations may be done for personal reasons. So what is it? It is a series of highly invasive flowering plants originally released by Blank and Blank Flower Shop that have been in the Foundation's possession as of Blankety Blank 2000-something. These plants, mainly this plant species Didier's tulips, Tulipa gesneraniana, are naturally bioluminescent, powered by water and other nutrients. These plants grow a variety of colors, though most instances glow purple. They glow, not grow. Glow purple, blue, or green. This bioluminescent effect can be seen best at night or in a dark area. The effect is only active while the plants are alive. 621, particularly its glow, seems to have a hypnotizing effect on humans, with numerous requests by personnel to store them in their personal offices, all of which have been denied. It has varying effects on other animals. When exposed to bees, hummingbirds, or cross-pollinating animals, all of the animals subjected have preferred spreading the pollen of 621 as opposed to other flowering plants, and due to its bioluminescence, are capable of doing this at night, increasing its rate of reproduction. However, when exposed to herbivores such as deer or rabbits, all subjected animals have actively avoided 621. With a high fertility rate, a natural defense against predators, and a hypnotizing effect on humans, it can be deemed a highly effective invasive species. Addendum 4. Upon further testing, its pollen gives off a strong, it used to say, and pleasant aroma. I guess they crossed it out so that people wouldn't go like, ooh, pleasant, and then sniff it and then die. Or something. It's completely hypoallergenic, and when personnel with allergies are exposed to up to 5 grams of the pollen, they displayed no allergic reactions. When placed around other plants, 621 supersedes the nutrients provided to other plants in order to fuel its bioluminescence. As a result, it quickly drains the soil of nutrients and requires more water than all other plants in the Site-16 greenhouse. Before being actively monitored by the Foundation, 621 had uprooted multiple farming patches, but because of its hypnotic qualities, nothing had been done to stop them. In addition, sympathizers actively water the invading plants during their incursions. Although government agencies such as the USDA and EPA protect against these sort of invasive species, said agencies have actively defended 621 at the expense of commercial farmers. It may be of note that these farmers have since accepted the situation, citing its aesthetic superiority to their own crops and their desire to protect 621. The Foundation stepped in when 621 began invading Blank National Wildlife Preserve, threatening several instances of both endangered plants and animals. The EPA refused to hinder the spread of 621 despite the existential risk to the plants and animals on the grounds that it would have made the Blank National Wildlife Preserve more aesthetically pleasing. Although Didier's tulips are the most common type of 621. There also exists a species that include other types of tulips, roses, and a few instances of lettuce as a result of cross-pollination. However, no disposable dudes could bring themselves to eat 621, worried about possible side effects. When force-fed, it induces intense anxiety and paranoia on the subject, but no other side effects. This anxiety dissipates upon digestion. This effect has been seen on multiple test subjects. Oh, okay, Addendum 1 and 2 were down here, and Addendum 1 apparently doesn't exist anymore. It used to say, in light of recent events involving Dr. Z, someone hoarding several instances of 621 in his personal office, all personnel in Site-16 are allowed to keep at least one instance of 621 in their offices. Addendum 2. In light of Dr. Z's public apology for hoarding several instances of 621 in his personal office, personnel are no longer allowed to keep any instances of 621 in their offices. Note: to everyone asking me to ask the administration to release 621 to the public, this is the very reason we're keeping it here. I don't care if it looks cool or if I had to feel my office for a while. I know firsthand that this thing has some kind of hypnotizing effect on people, and something is telling me this planet has possibly evolved for that very purpose. If our own government agencies won't stop these things, we will. Alright, so, desert in a can. It was safe, but now it's Euclid, a value-sized canister containing 622. Logo designs vary by country/year. All cans and containers of 622 are to be immediately transferred to Site-16. The formula for 622 must be contained from the public by any means necessary. Any commercial trade of products containing 622 should be documented and preferably intercepted before delivery. Any persons/organizations in possession of 622 are to be taken in for questioning. Handling 622 will require seal-proof gloves, hand lotion, and at least one canteen of water per personnel present. In the event of a containment breach, the immediate area affected by 622 is to be quarantined for no less than 24 hours and hosed down with irregular water shortly after. Addendum 1. In light of Tests 1 through 3, all future testing must take place outside of its air circulation system. Addendum 2. 622 is not to be used outside under any circumstances. Additional containment procedures are only available to security level 4 personnel and above as per protocol redacted. Okay. Description. 622 is the chemical composition blank, also known as blankety blank blank, developed by the blank chemical company under the trade name Desert in a Can. It was originally marketed as a security aid for large businesses to incapacitate intruders in a similar vein to tear gas or pepper spray. According to Blank Chemical Company, 622 also doubled as a cleaning agent and insecticide, but due to its hazardous nature, the chemical company was shut down in 19-something before any more products of this nature could be manufactured. As of blank blank blank, there are still at least blank 100 to blank 1,000 documented cans of Desert in a Can remaining, most of which are still in possession and used by the following companies, redacted. According to the directions, one layer of 622 is applied to hallways during a break-in or robbery. When applied, it becomes odorless and colorless. Upon application, all moisture in the area is absorbed by 622, creating an easily cleanable salt-like crust over the applied areas identified to be compound sodium chloride, magnesium sulfate, and blank 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 blank. When 622 is exposed to organic life, the immediate effects are dehydration, dried eyes, and profuse sweating, which is quickly absorbed by 622. Other effects include a significant drop in blood pressure, increase in heart rate, dizziness, and chills. For more information, see Test Log 3. According to the can's warning label, it dissipates after 12 hours, but according to Test 1, it could last for up to 24 to 26 hours, or 36 hours. Tests 2 and 3 show that 622 will only dissipate in 12 hours when redacted. Security levels 3 and up refer to Test Logs 2 and 3. Test Log 1. Inorganic testing of 622 to determine shelf life of chemical compound data expunged in an isolated environment. 622 applied in isolated hallway case something and viewed through remote monitoring devices. Moisture measured and monitored by electronic instruments. For control, hallways K6 and 7 were also monitored for humidity content, averaging at 20% relative humidity. Result: in 12 hours, relative humidity around 622 remained unchanged at 0%. Despite the label's claim of dissipating in 12 hours, the area did not rise in humidity. It took nearly 26 hours at last before the relative humidity rose to 1%. The relative humidity stayed at 1% for nearly an hour more, slowly rising to 2 after the 27th hour. It did not completely dissipate until 35 hours and 28 minutes. The final relative humidity capped at 19%. 19.26 with significant figures. For the next 4 weeks and remained there as of writing. It is undetermined if this is a result of 622 removing all excess moisture from the construction phase of Site-16, or if there's a chemical component that does not dissipate. Let's see. Test 2. An organic testing of 6.2 to determine shelf life of chemical compound blank in a controlled environment. Before it was applied to hallway K blank, 4 buckets of water, equivalent to the water content of an average human being, were placed in the aforementioned hallway. As with test 1, hallway K blank was isolated, applied with 622, and viewed through remote monitoring devices. Moisture measured and monitored by electronic instruments. For control, hallway 6 and 7 were also monitored for humidity content, averaging at 20% relative humidity. Results: in 12 hours, all 4 buckets of water were completely dried up. The relative humidity stood at 12% until 25 hours had passed, finally capping at around 18.87 with significant figures, after 35 hours elapsed time. When applying significant figures to the control rooms, the average relative humidity has dropped from 20.24 to 20.17. It is unknown whether this is directly a result of 622, Site 16's air system, or a combination of the two. Test 3. Organic testing of 6.2 to determine shelf life of chemical compound data expunged in a controlled environment. Procedure: 2 disposable dues were requested by Dr. Z, I guess that's the same doctor from the flower test. Subject D254, male Caucasian, 24 years old, 87 kilograms, 169 centimeters tall, given a canteen of water prior to entering hallway K blank. Subject D255, male Caucasian, 46, 92 kilograms, 172 centimeters, was not given any water prior to entering hallway K blank. As with test 1 and 2, it was isolated, applied with 622, and viewed through remote monitoring, moisture measured and monitored with electronic instruments. Same thing with the control for the other 2 hallways. Almost immediately after entering the affected area, both subjects complained of exhaustion. 254 immediately began drinking from his canteen. 255 attempted to struggle with 254 over the canteen, but found himself too weak to fight. 255 starts visibly hyperventilating at around 8 minutes elapsed time. They collapse at 10 minutes elapsed time and they don't get up. 254 notices a visible mist coming off his canteen, reports his water is evaporating and needs more. Agent P is sent in to give him more water, reports on how dry the air is. 255's flesh is visibly redacted. At 15 minutes, subject 254 runs out of water, complains about being hungry. Agent P returns with multiple bottles of redacted brand sports drink, a bucket of water, and several granola bars. 254 is seen dunking his head into the bucket of water before pouring it on himself and consuming sports drinks and granola bars. The water on his hair and clothes immediately dry up. At 26 minutes elapsed time, 254 collapses from malnutrition. For the next 10 hours, the bodies continue redacted, finally reaching the skeletons. The clear salt-like crust from the evaporated moisture had turned into a mix of dark red and brown. The average relative humidity remained at 14% until 35 hours elapsed time, averaging at 18.56% with significant figures. When applying significant figures to the control rooms, average relative humidity has dropped from 20.17 to 19.96. Note: I think it's safe to believe that 622 may have some sort of chemical component that still lingers long after it has dissolved. For future reference, let's do all testing outside of Site 16's circulation system. Oh, it's those documents that it said I can't see. They're here. Test log 4. Organic testing of 622 to determine shelf life of chemical compound redacted in an outdoor environment. Procedure: 622 will be applied to a small patch of grass on Site 16, testing Biosphere 7 and viewed through remote monitoring devices. Moisture measured and monitored by electronic instruments. For control, testing Biosphere 2 and 1 were also monitored for humidity content, averaging at 68 and 73% relative humidity, respectively. Results: data expunged. See Addendum 2. Security levels 3 and above refer to document A and B. I don't see an Addendum 2. Oh, right, Addendum 2 was up here, wasn't it? Don't use it outside anymore. So, let's see. First document. Test log 4. All that stuff. Result: within the first minute of exposure, the humidity of Biosphere 7 dropped to 0, forming a brown crust along where 622 was sprayed. Within 2 minutes of testing, all flora within the Biosphere had shriveled up, turning into a salt-like compound similar to 622. All of the mud within Biosphere 7 turned to dry, cracked dirt. After 3 minutes, security notified testing staff that the surrounding plant life of Site 16 was beginning to turn brown outside of Biosphere 7, despite the airtight nature of the Biosphere. Site 16 staff dispatched to surround the area and stop 622 from spreading. After 5 minutes, it has covered 0.017 square kilometers, spreading at an estimated rate of 0.2 kilometers an hour, or roughly 3 meters a minute. Site 16 proceeded to dump water on the surrounding area to stop 622 from spreading. It quickly absorbs all water and continues spreading. Site 16 command level staff immediately requested enact Protocol Gray. O5 approves, Protocol Gray enacted. Security levels 3 and above refer to 622B. Security levels 4 and 5 refer to Protocol Grade containment procedures. So, a message from O5 to General Staff. As many of you are undoubtedly aware, 622 has broken out of containment at Site-16. While this does pose a possible threat leading to an eventual NK-class Grey Goo end-of-the-world scenario, Foundation staff are doing their best to contain the problem. Site-16 staff have enacted Protocol Grey to slow the rate of 622 spreading, and are currently looking into how 622 was able to breach the biosphere testing facility. To help alleviate fears, here are a few facts that we would like you to know. All of the biological SCPs at Site-16 have been secured and transferred away from the spread of 622. Space will be slightly more cramped, but the situation is under control and all of the SCPs are in proper containment. As of 7/18/12, 622 has only spread a total of less than 3 square kilometers, and the rate has slowed thanks to Protocol Grey. At the rate it's going, it will only be able to overtake Site-16 in 7 years. Even then, we still have plenty of time before it reaches any urban areas. 622 can be slowed down by water, especially fluoridated water. As long as we keep pumping over water to Site-16, it will buy us extra time until we can think of a solution. We have a list of all the known companies that are still in possession of 622 and are actively seeking to contain every last canister before they can be used. Lastly, I know some of you are shaky about Protocol Grey. It may come back to bite us, but I'd much rather worry about an XK-class end-of-the-world scenario in a few hundred years than an NK-class Grey Goo end-of-the-world scenario in the next few weeks. We'll deal with that then, but for now, Protocol Grey is buying us time. As long as we end Protocol Grey in the next 10 years, I don't think there's anything we'll need to worry about. I will notify everyone once 622 has been contained and when Site-16 staff discover why it was able to breach containment. Carry on! 05 blank, December 15, 2012. Access denied. Site staff have been notified. Okay. I mean, the whole time I've been doing this website, whenever it's like, oh, these are for super duper important eyes only, click here, and it has some sort of like mimetic brain melting thing, and then it's like, okay, you can read it now. I don't think I've ever seen it go through the process of having the link and then just say, access denied, site staff have been notified. Like, I imagine there's somewhere in the website that says what Protocol Grey is. So, if anybody knows where I can find that, because I'm not sure if this website has a search bar. Does this website have a search bar? It does have a search bar, but that's not important right now. Boop, boop. There we go. There we don't go. Okay. And that brings us to one groovy room. I gotta sneeze, though. Sorry. The groovy room is safe. 623 is located in the blank annex of blank university. The entrance to 623 is to be guarded by 2 level 3 security personnel at all times. And in-room monitoring must take place every hour for no longer than 5 minutes. Extended observation of 623 is done from an external observation room through remote monitoring devices. Personnel operating within the observation room are required to switch out every 5 minutes. An additional level 3 security guard is required to escort any observers out of the observation room and must not enter until needed. All personnel subjected to 623 for longer than 5 minutes are to be taken for psychological re-evaluation, regardless of direct or indirect exposure. No photos, video, or sound recordings are permitted near 623. Sketch drawings and mock-ups must be approved by command-level personnel before being released. All photos, mock-ups, or recreations of 623 are to be destroyed immediately. 623 may safely come into contact with room-altering SCPs, as any major alteration to the room neutralizes 623's effect. However, room-altering SCPs will still carry the same inherent dangers. Addendum 1. All testing on individual subjects may last no longer than 6 hours. Security monitoring observing personnel are now required to remove observing personnel from before the 5th minute has elapsed, possibly earlier if needed. Description. 623 is a room of roughly 7 by 7 by 7 meters, built in 1960-something by Dr. D, a biochemical professor at Blank University. Built as a part of data expunged, Dr. D was subsequently arrested for his activities, but not before his students and followers began making copies of the room. As of 2000-something in the 10s, at least blank recreations of 623 have been found across the blank college campuses. The room was quite large and consisted of the following objects: a blue couch, a red couch, a green couch, a white beanbag chair, a circular table emulating a color wheel, 7 chairs surrounding the aforementioned table, and 7 multicolored lighting fixtures. All of the furniture is arranged in a unique mathematical-based pattern coinciding with the patterns on the walls and the floor. All of the furniture has been nailed to the floor, most likely prior to painting. Because of the high ceilings, the eye is naturally drawn up to the psychedelic patterns on the walls. The arrangement of the furniture, the pattern surrounding the room, and the combined acoustics have a profound effect on mental behavior, regardless if the affected observer is deaf or blind. These effects extend through remote monitoring devices, still photos, and audio recording devices. Upon entering 623, personnel have described a feeling of relaxation. After 3 minutes from entering 623, the personnel are incapable of violence, becoming docile and harmless. For the effects after 5 minutes, refer to Document 1. Due to the room's pacifying effects, all attempts at removing the furniture are futile. Exiting 623 exhibits inverse withdrawal effects. Immediately after observation has stopped, observers will feel an intense jolt back to the outside world, which becomes significantly stronger over time spent inside. Other side effects vary over time. Upon leaving 623 within 1 minute of entering, personnel reported feeling uneasy, jittery, slightly paranoid. After leaving 623 3 minutes from entering, personnel have exhibited anxiety, fear, and in worst cases, depression. For effects after 5 minutes, refer to Document 1. So, test. 5 to 10 minutes. Disposable dude, 251. Observed behavior within 623. After 5 minutes, they are seen giggling and mumbling slurred phrases. After 6 minutes, they begin hugging a white beanbag chair, declaring his love for it. After 7 minutes, he requested various junk foods over the remote monitoring devices. The request denied. After 8 minutes, began to dance around singing what could possibly be identified as a 60s folk song. From 9 to 10 minutes in, the subject continued staggering around laughing. Observed behavior upon exiting. He's seen actively yelling at staff and threatening violence upon leaving 623. He punched Agent S and was quickly restrained. In detainment, he was observed crying and screaming at the floor, threatening suicide. The bouts of intense rage and intense despair lasted for the next 3 days. Transferred off-site. 30 minutes to an hour. Disposable dude 252. Displayed similar behavior to subject 251 with only minor differences for the first 10 minutes. After 20 minutes, he began to look flushed, exhibiting symptoms not too dissimilar from sexual activity. He complained of being thirsty and hungry. Due to safety concerns and to avoid a retest, he was given 2 liters of blank brand soda with a large pepperoni pizza and blank brand onion ring flavored snacks. He ate the food relatively quickly, forgot what he was doing halfway through, staggered around laughing for the next 5 minutes, and continued eating. At 40 minutes, he repeated the word indubitably in different inflections and accents. This continued for the next 7 minutes. Agent P, who was observing at the time, began to laugh along with 252 before being forcefully replaced by Agent G. Upon removal, P threatened to quit and expose the Foundation out of anger, but was safely detained and recovered in the next 3 days. Near the end of the first hour, 252 began to remove shirt, pants, and all undergarments and proceeded to redacted. I imagine he probably had his way with the beanbag chair. But immediately after leaving 623, 252 began to scream violently and spastically attack its escorts. They were just restrained and detained. Upon being released into its cell, it began to claw off his own face in horror, screaming at how he still sees it without his eyes. Subject was then placed in restraints for the remainder of the observation to ensure he could no longer harm himself or others. He did not recover for nearly 2 weeks and was later transferred off-site. So has 3 1 day, disposal 253. Additional information should include that they were previously charged with serial murder, animal cruelty, data expunged. The psychological evaluation showed an additional history of sociopathy and regular outbursts of anger. They were escorted into the room in a full body restraint. Upon entering, the subject who had previously threatened to kill Agent S as soon as he got out of the restraints began apologizing profusely. Before the first 5 minutes elapsed, they began to engage Agent S in a conversation of a sophomoric manner. Agent S was escorted out of the room quickly, displaying a headache and emotional turmoil upon leaving. 253 exhibited the behavior of the previous test subjects and was given the appropriate food and water to last through the test. By the second hour, they requested to use a latrine. Request denied, but Agent Chi was able to bring the necessary equipment into the room without disrupting its effects. By the 5th hour, the subject's behavior deteriorated into repetitive fidgeting and incoherent rambling. They suspected to be hallucinating. They fell asleep around 6 hours elapsed time. They later awoke 12 hours later, having great difficulty standing back up. They spent the next 6 hours laughing and babbling on the floor before being escorted out. Upon leaving, they began to convulse shortly before redacted. The autopsy of them proved useless as redacted. Test results only available to those with security clearance level 3 or above. Addendum 2, it is unknown what causes redacted after 6 hours within 623, but it may be part of the room's effects on the body itself. So what did it do? Upon leaving, subject 253 began to convulse shortly before collapsing to the ground and expelling all bodily fluids. In addition, he lost his hair, eyes, teeth, and finger and toenails. The autopsy proved useless as there is no organic matter left to study. Studying the bodily fluids also proved futile as there was no cell life to be found. Oh! Okay, so it sounds like if you stay in that room for longer than 6 hours, you just kind of cease to be real. All of your hair, eyes, teeth, finger, and toenails just fall off, and all of your bodily fluids just leave, and then none of them have cell life. So your bodily fluids come out, cease being human bodily fluids, and then all your extremity things fall off. Cool, cool. That is not groovy at all. It's probably only called groovy because of the colors. But that is like the complete opposite of groovy. Like when I say if a like and subscribe will be groovy, I don't mean a like and subscribe will make my bodily fluids pop out and my fingernails and toenails and eyes will fall off. That's not what liking and subscribing do, because that's not what groovy means. Anyway, personal music player. No, not new tab. It's safe, and it looks like a really old iPod, but it might also be a Zune. And it's once again being used by Dr. Z. Who is Dr. Z? Why has he suddenly shown up for everything in this episode? It's like when Dr. Wrights first started happening. This popped up, did terrible, terrible things, and then vanished for like 100 entries. Who are these people? Anyway, SCP-26... What? 624 is to be stored in Site-16's safe storage room and charged frequently by testing personnel. Testing is open to all Site-16 personnel. It's Site-16 again, maybe that's why it's Dr. Z. With proper clearance. Personal access to 624 is otherwise restricted. 624 is not to be taken off of Site-16 unless in the event of an emergency. It must be listened to through regular headphones before being played on regular speakers. It is not to be played at Site-16's social functions for entertainment due to containment protocol and possible risk of humiliation of Site-16 personnel. Audio created by 624 is not to be sold commercially nor shared through file sharing networks. Addendum 1. Personnel who do not listen to music, do not like music, or have zero musical influences are not allowed to test 624. See test log 1. Okay? It is a SanDisk Sansa E200R MP3 player and voice recorder. The back of the player says 624 contains 2 GB of memory. Although the original owner's manual claims there are preloaded sample songs, there are no files stored within its memory when played on normal speakers. Uploading music to 624F seems to be impossible as every program tested, including iTunes, Rhapsody, and Yahoo Music, have all returned with encoding errors. When powering up 624 through headphones, a tone will play, and this tone will be picked up through 624's microphone. If 624 does not detect the tone, it will shut down as if it were locked. If it hears the tone from normal speakers, it will power on normally but contain no stored data. If it detects the tone from a pair of headphones, it will automatically fill its library with 2 GB worth of music. The music in question is all written, produced, played, and sung by the wearer of the headphones, regardless of current musical talent. Each song comes with an appropriate album cover and the listener's artist profile, which is factually incorrect based on possibly based on an alternate timeline if the listener had become a full-time musician. When exposed to the musically inclined, 624 will generate specific songs or improve songs they may have already written. When exposed to test subjects with little to no musical experience, it will generate music based on their favorite music influences, regardless if they like to generate music or not. These songs tend to be very consistent to the listener, but more songs are added based on musical influences. If space runs out when the listener is introduced to a new musical influence, the listener's least favorite songs are replaced. When shut down, the songs are subsequently deleted until 624 is introduced to the listener once more. Once powered up through headphones, the listener may unplug his or her headphones and connect it to normal speakers. The audio files themselves cannot be transferred, but can be dubbed onto a separate recording device. Disposable 256, subject's favorite genre is grindcore music. Artist profile: Death Expletive Redacted. Began their rise to infamy after their deadly set at Hellfest 3, resulting in several injuries and 1 recorded death. Death Expletive Redacted's lineup includes 2 drummers, 2 bassists, 3 rhythm guitarists, and 2 lead guitarists. Death Expletive Redacted's original lead singer, HR, committed suicide by gunshot wound on stage during their Expletive Redacted tour 2000-something. Result: music is extremely loud and very brutal, lasting between 5 to 45 seconds, resulting in more than 1,000 tracks. A common trend among these tracks are atonal noise, screaming, cursing, and sounds from movie clips. The lyrics mostly concern violence, rape, murder, data expunged. Subject is very pleased with the results and requested a personal copy of the created music. This request was denied. Subject comments: Expletive Redacted, yeah, this is awesome! What's an E-class personnel? I know the D-class personnel are disposable people, what's E-class? EW. Subject's favorite genre is adult alternative and has experience in playing guitar. Artist profile. EW is one of today's biggest names in acoustic pop and soul, sharing the same bill with such names as John Mayer and Jack Johnson. EW began playing guitar at the age of 8 and continued on to other instruments such as piano, trumpet, and drums. They also starred in Disney's High School Musical series, competing with Summerland star Zac Efron for the role of Troy. The music is very relaxed and modern sounding. Lyrics mostly concern romance and recreational activities. Subject stated multiple songs were originally written by him, but were all of much higher quality, both in writing, performance, and recording quality. Subject was surprised and initially very happy, but later saddened by the test results. Subject comments, "God, I wish I could sing like that." Subject, Level 2 Security Agent E. Does not normally listen to music, but would like to hear the results. Artist profile, DE Unknown Artist, 000000. Music consisted of 72 tracks, all labeled by number. Each track contains a condensed autobiography of the subject by year, narrated by the subject himself in a clear theatrical voice. Personnel initially questioned the accuracy of the autobiography due to the inaccuracies of the previous test, but track number blank 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 confirmed its accuracy when the narrator referred to this very test, stating that the subject will leave the room when they begin playing track 72. The subject began distraught by the remaining biography as data expunged and subsequently left the testing room by track 71. 2/3 through the final track, the narrator begins to scream as data expunged, presumably killing him. The sounds of redacted and inhuman cackling are heard for the remainder of the track. Subject comments, "I never want to know what happens to me on that final track. I know you've said you're going to tell me, but please don't tell me." Another E-class personnel, whatever that means. LP. It should be of note that LP, while aware of music, does not like or listen to music. LP does not think highly of herself. She thinks she is ugly and alone. She has frequent thoughts of suicide in between lusting after names redacted. LP does not know why she gets up in the morning. The playlist did not consist of music, but a list of blank names from Site 16 personnel. When played, the subject's voice would state her deepest opinions on the track's staff member. Despite protests from the subject, testing personnel played every track in order to find any discrepancies. They were visibly angry. Comments? Turn it off! I said turn it off! Disposable 258. It should be of note that 258 does not listen to music. When questioned, they could not name one genre or band, stating all music is noise. Artist profile. Blank blank was born on blank blank 19 something in the blank blank and blank 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 went to the following schools. Data expunged. Blank blank was eventually convicted of data expunged. He was later recruited by an organization known as the SCP Foundation to test one of their many strange relics. Blank blank committed suicide shortly after this test. Oh. Music consists of one track of unknown bitrate and quality exceeding several days, possibly years worth of time, squeezed into exactly 2 GB. When played, data expunged. Data expunged had no effect on listening personnel, but sent 258 into a state of shock. They commit suicide via blunt force trauma to the head. When fast forwarded back to the end of the track vaguely sounds of 258 being transferred to Site 16 with what sounds like his thoughts in the background, mostly violent and insulting thoughts towards the staff, turning to horror upon hearing 624. After the suicide, the track continues playing past its runtime and cuts to data expunged. It is unknown how much longer the track continues, as all personnel present quickly fled the testing room and demanded testing be ceased immediately. Personnel present to data expunged were reported visibly shaken for days. No official statement was given. 258's last words were, "My soul is on this machine!" Note, active testing ceased on 624. For freelance testing by personnel, see test log 2. Dr. Z. And how long is test log 2? This is a testing log of 624 by site blank personnel and visiting staff to scope 624's abilities. Please remember that 624 is not a toy and that you must do these tests at your own risk. Dr. Z. It used to say, "Warning, personnel who do not listen to music, do not like music, or have zero music influences are not allowed to test 624. Note 2. I said it before and I'll say it again. It is not a toy. You may use it for testing, but if you want to hear yourself become a famous musician, go take some music lessons. Our job is to seek out the range of its abilities. As of August 31st, 2016, this test log is for anomalous test results only. To see the control test, refer to test log 1. Dr. D, Level 4 Security. How long is this? It's probably not particularly important that I read through this. I've only got one entry left for this episode and it's already running over long. And that entry is ankle biters. What the hell does that mean? Euclid Flecto? Why does the 600s have all these things that don't mean anything? Safe and Pedis, Euclid Flecto, E-class personnel. What the hell is going on in the 600s? Anyway, All specimens of 625 are to be contained within a 5x5 by 7 meter room constructed of reinforced concrete at Site 19, Wing 8. The door to this room is located approximately 5 meters from the floor and opens to a balcony with a railing. Use of the installed platform elevator system is required to access 625 specimens. The following features are also present in the cell. 5 high-powered ceiling-mounted flood lamps. These are to remain off except when personnel are present in the containment chamber, in which case they will remain active until all personnel have exited the cell. 4 ceiling-mounted security cameras. The feed from these cameras is monitored for unusual activity by personnel at Site Security Station A85. 1 device designed to emit randomized ultrasonic noise when active. This is to be activated only during security breaches or if a security breach is deemed imminent. Identical devices are installed in the remainder of Wing 8 for the same purpose. 17 specimens of 625 are currently in containment. More are believed to exist in the wild. Police reports suggesting 625 presence must be investigated. Routine maintenance and feeding of 625 and its cell is to be performed daily by Level 1 personnel in accordance with Procedure 625M once daily. Livestock has been deemed to the safest and most cost-effective food for 625. Update of February 25th, 1995. 625 may not be exposed to other rodents under any circumstances. Further testing on 625 requires authorization from Dr. McGregor, 4-625, 1515, 2114, and 4123. Okay, these are other SCPs, but it looks like 4123 doesn't actually exist yet. Further, any specimen of 625 that has consumed human flesh on more than one occasion must be terminated. The body may be disposed of in Site 19's incinerator. Instances of 625 are nocturnal organisms composed primarily of distinct sections from no less than 7 different species of rodentia. They range from 20 to 30 centimeters in length, and when unfed, weigh between 2 to 2.5 kilograms. When left alone, the specimens do not exhibit unusual behavior. They engage in attempts at reproduction but appear to be infertile. Used to say, it is unclear whether this is an effect of being kept in captivity or whether specimens of 625 in the wild are also infertile, and then it just says data expunged. 2 625 specimens are omnivorous and have metabolic requirements comparable to those of other rodents for their size. Specimens do not necessarily have a body plan conforming to that of non-anomalous rodents. Instances have been located that do not possess bilateral symmetry, as have instances that possess an abnormal number of arrangement of limbs. All instances have extremely sensitive eyes and ears and have 2 claws between 12 and 16 centimeters in length on each foreleg. 625 specimens are capable of using these claws for rudimentary manipulation. It has been observed licking its claws frequently. Analysis of its saliva has revealed the presence of a powerful local anesthetic, which is produced by a specialized gland in each specimen's body. Attempts to synthesize or analyze this anesthetic have failed. See document A62530 for more information. 625 specimens will sharpen their claws whenever possible, resulting in an edge that is capable of cutting through flesh and most clothing materials. Each instance of it appears to have a unique composition, with tissue from any individual species comprising no more than 30% of the specimen's total mass. Separate sections are joined together seamlessly on a cellular level, although there is no mixing. Despite being composed of biologically incompatible tissues, no allergic reactions or other health issues have been noted. 625 is capable of surviving the majority of its bones being crushed and the removal of significant quantities of flesh without significant impairment for up to 45 minutes. The reason for this is unclear. Specimens may be subdued by bright lights or ultrasonic noise. When exposed to these stimuli, specimens will enter a dormant state in which they do not react to external stimuli. This state will last for approximately 80 seconds after the removal of the offending stimulus. When not in a subdued state, instances of 625 are hostile to humans. When aware of the presence of a human, they will exhibit increased speed and strength. Speeds in excess of 35 whatever P is per hour. Or is it supposed to be kilograms per hour, or kilometers per hour, kilometers per hour? And I've never seen the P be a part of the kilometers per hour before. And the ability to exert forces of 400 newtons. Due to unusual muscle structure, 625 is only capable of jumping approximately 2 meters vertically in this state, necessitating a relatively tall containment chamber. Okay. And it will cause less noise than normal. 625 will attempt to approach any human subject without the subject noticing. If it goes unnoticed, it will use its claws to remove a radial slab approximately 3 centimeters in height from each ankle of the subject, attempting to leave the bone intact. Due to the anesthetic produced by 625, the subject will not experience pain. It is possible for subjects to suffer from severe blood loss before becoming aware of their condition. Instances of 625 will compete with each other for access to human ankles if necessary. Upon obtaining these slabs of flesh, the specimens will attempt to retreat to a nearby dark secluded place where it will consume the meat. 625 does not appear to use human flesh for nutritional purposes, rather data expunged. Behavior alterations will not become obvious until the 4th time it engages in this behavior. Addendum. All wild specimens of 625 have been recovered from Blank, Scotland. Due to the sparse population of this area, geographic analysis of recovery locations of 625 was able to suggest a connection with a cabin owned by one Peter Murray, a local recluse. Interviews with those familiar with Peter Murray provided little information of interest other than that the subject complained of frequent migraine headaches and may have suffered from disorganized schizophrenia. The subject was found dead in his cabin approximately 20 days after the first report of 625 behavior. Analysis suggests he was dead for approximately 1 week before the aforementioned report. Cause of death was blood loss during an apparent attempt by the subject to amputate his legs below the knee with a saw. A journal kept by the subject was generally incomprehensible but suggested that he feared the animals he had taxidermied. No evidence suggests that Peter Murray has ever owned any taxidermied animals. Well, that's uncomfortable. And it looks like we're never going to get to find out what happens when they eat human flesh 4 times. So, that about does it for this episode. This has been Anashi Sasuke. This is episode 134 of Let's Read the SP Foundation Wiki. In the next episode, we'll be starting with vision-altering sculpture and going up through Perpetual Circle, Flute Copse, Mr. Brass, and Black Glacier. I'll probably call that Flute Corpse several times by accident. So, if you liked it, a like and subscribe will be groovy and will not make you have all of your eyes and fingernails and toenails pop off. If you didn't, you'll need to do either one of those things, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Later.